Title: To Catch a Pirate. Chapter 1. The Signal in the Night. John Drake Jr. sat in his modest flat on Punt Road, the hum of Melbourne's nightlife faintly audible through the windows. His equipment was set up: a direction-finding receiver, a spectrum analyzer, and a map of Melbourne spread out on the table. A pirate radio station had begun broadcasting on 1485 kHz, an unused frequency on the AM band. At first, it seemed harmless, relaying a DAB-only station's content. But as the nights passed, the transmissions grew more sinister, filled with anti-establishment propaganda aimed at sowing chaos. Drake's morning ritual at the Pink Daffodil Cafe had been interrupted by Lady Hamilton-Smyth, his informant and the cafe's flamboyant owner. They're political disruptors, John, she had whispered over his cappuccino, using old-school technology to reach a wide audience. You need to stop them. Now, with his father's advice echoing in his mind, Drake began his hunt. John Drake Sr., the legendary British spy, had dealt with a similar threat decades ago. Radio Jolly Roger, a pirate station that had been a front for espionage. Drake Sr. had taught his son the art of direction finding, and now, Drake Jr. put those lessons to use. Chapter 2. The Antenna in the Shadows. The signal was strong, but pinpointing its source was no easy task. The wavelength of 1485 kHz was 202 meters, meaning the pirates would need a massive antenna, likely around 165 feet long. Drake and his team scoured Chadstone, a southeastern suburb of Melbourne, where the signal seemed strongest. They drove through quiet streets, their eyes scanning rooftops and backyards for any sign of the telltale antenna. Meanwhile, Drake's father, retired and living in his secluded Tudor mansion in Olinda, provided guidance over secure communications. Look for irregularities, Drake Sr. advised. A structure that doesn't belong, a property with too much security, or a sudden increase in power usage. As Drake followed his father's advice, he began to suspect a nondescript warehouse on the outskirts of Chadstone. It was surrounded by high fences, and the roof was obscured by trees. But what caught Drake's attention was the faint hum of a generator, a necessity for a high-power transmitter. Chapter 3. The Mole Within. Back at the Australian Secret Intelligence Service, ASIS, headquarters in South Bank, Drake's team prepared for a raid on the warehouse. But as they finalized their plans, Drake received an anonymous tip: there's a mole in your team. They're monitoring your communications. Drake's heart sank. The mole could compromise the entire operation. He reviewed the team's personnel files, focusing on an IT consultant who had recently joined. The consultant had access to sensitive systems and the technical expertise to monitor communications covertly. Drake set a trap, feeding false information about a fake raid location. When the pirates adjusted their broadcasts to counter the non-existent threat, Drake knew he had found his mole. Confronting the consultant in a secure room, Drake demanded answers. Why betray your country, he asked. The mole, a disillusioned government employee, sneered. The system is broken. It needs to be torn down. The pirates are just the beginning. Drake arrested the mole, ensuring the integrity of the mission. Chapter 4. The Raid. With the mole neutralized, Drake and his team moved in on the warehouse. Under the cover of darkness, they breached the perimeter, disabling the pirate security systems. Inside, they found a sophisticated setup, a high-power transmitter, a studio filled with recording equipment, and stacks of propaganda materials. The pirates, a group of political extremists, were caught off guard. Drake's team swiftly apprehended them, seizing their equipment and shutting down the broadcast. As the final transmission was cut off, the airwaves fell silent. Chapter 5. The Aftermath. Back at the Pink Daffodil Cafe, Drake enjoyed his morning ritual once more. Lady Hamilton-Smyth approached, her usual flamboyance tempered by a rare seriousness. You did it, John. Melbourne is safe again. Drake nodded, sipping his cappuccino. Thanks to you, Lady Hamilton-Smyth, and to my father. Later, Drake visited his father in Olinda. The retired spy was tending to his garden. As always, you did well, son, Drake Sr. said, pride evident in his voice. But remember, the world of espionage is never quiet for long. Drake smiled. I'll be ready. As he left his father's mansion, Drake felt a sense of accomplishment. He had stopped the pirates, exposed the mole, and upheld the integrity of his country, but he knew his work was far from over. In the shadows, new threats always lurked, waiting for their moments to strike. Epilogue: The Pink Daffodil's Secret. As Drake returned to his flat, he received a cryptic message from Lady Hamilton-Smyth. "Meet me at the cafe. There's something you need to see." At the Pink Daffodil, she handed him a small, encrypted USB drive. "This was found in the pirate's studio. It's addressed to you." Drake plugged the drive into his laptop, his heart racing as he decrypted the files. What he found sent a chill down his spine. A list of names, including high-ranking officials and prominent figures, marked for assassination. The pirates had been just the beginning. The game was far from over.